The door creaked open like a confession I wasn't ready to hear, and there she was, Josephine, my brother's oldest friend, her hazel eyes locking onto mine in the dim afternoon light of our family's Spanish villa. I froze, my tank top half pulled over my head, the salty breeze from the Mediterranean whispering through the open shutters, carrying the faint scent of olive blossoms and regret. "Alina," she whispered, her voice cracking like the dry earth outside after a summer storm. "I didn't mean to, God, I'm sorry," but in that split second, the world tilted, and I saw not just intrusion, but the raw hunger she'd hidden for years behind easy laughs and borrowed sweaters. It was the summer of 2015, and I'd come back to our family's old place in Andalusia to escape the grind of New York, dead-end barista gigs, a string of dates that fizzled like cheap fireworks, and the nagging ache of turning 25 without a clue who I was beyond my brother's shadow. Our villa sat perched on a hill overlooking the jagged coast west of Malaga, a rambling stone house my parents had bought in the 80s during Dad's brief fling with expat life. They called it La Casa del Sol, but to me, it was always just the old place, faded tapestries on the walls, creaky wooden floors scarred by generations of American tourists pretending they belonged here. Mom was back in Jersey, Dad off chasing some consulting job in Dubai, and my brother, Theo, had dragged Josephine along for what he billed as a bro trip, though we all knew it was code for him nursing a hangover and her sketching the landscapes she loved more than people. Josephine Ruiz, Jo to everyone who mattered, had been Theo's shadow since college. She was the artsy one, the queer kid from Queens who'd majored in fine arts at NYU and now scraped by as a freelance illustrator in Brooklyn. Half Puerto Rican, half Irish, she had this effortless cool, sharp cheekbones that could cut glass, hair that fell in dark waves she never bothered to tame, and eyes like smoked amber that saw right through your bullshit. Theo adored her like a sister, which meant I'd grown up idolizing her from afar, stealing glances at family barbecues, envying how she could command a room with a single wry smile. But we'd never really talked, not beyond polite small talk over lukewarm sangria. Until that afternoon. I yanked the tank top down, heat flooding my cheeks as I spun toward the vanity, pretending to fuss with a brush. "It's fine, Joe." Door was open. "Blame the breeze." My voice came out steadier than I felt, but inside, my heart hammered like the distant waves crashing against the cliffs below. She'd seen me, vulnerable, unarmored, and instead of laughing it off like Theo would, she'd looked away too quickly, her fingers twisting the hem of her denim jacket. That pause, that flicker of something deeper than embarrassment, lodged in my chest like a splinter. Theo was out surfing, oblivious as ever, so dinner that night was just the three of us under the pergola, fairy lights twinkling against the twilight sky. The air hummed with cicadas, and the table groaned under platters of paella Mom had frozen before leaving, saffron rice studded with shrimp and chorizo, the kind of comfort food that masked 1,000 family arguments. Joe sat across from me, sketching idly on a napkin while Theo rambled about his latest startup pitch. "Alina, you gotta come to the city this fall," he said, sloshing more wine into my glass. "Joe's got this gallery show lined up. It'll blow your mind." I nodded, stealing glances at her. The napkin bore the outline of the villa's arched doorway, but in the margins, tiny figures, 2 women, heads bent close, hands almost touching. My stomach twisted. Was it me? Or just her imagination running wild, like always? "Sounds great," I murmured, pushing rice around my plate. Joe's eyes met mine over the candlelight, and for a heartbeat, the world narrowed to that gaze, warm, searching, laced with the same unspoken thing from earlier. The days blurred into a rhythm of heat and salt. Mornings, Theo and Joe would hike the trails to the hidden coves, him cracking jokes about conquering the world while she captured the light on crumbling stone walls with her phone. I'd join sometimes, trailing behind, content to watch her move, graceful, unhurried, like she belonged to this land more than any of us Yanks ever could. Afternoons were for siesta, the house falling silent under the relentless sun, and evenings for stories on the terrace, glasses sweating condensation as the stars wheeled overhead. One night, after Theo crashed early from too much Estrella, Joe, and I ended up alone with a bottle of vermouth and the old record player spinning Joan Baez. The vinyl crackled like fireflies, her voice weaving through the air, diamonds and rust. Joe leaned back in her Adirondack chair, legs stretched out, bare feet dusted with sand. "You ever feel like you're living someone else's life, Alina?" she asked, her tone light but her eyes heavy. I sipped my drink, the herbal bite grounding me. All the time. Like I'm just waiting for the plot to kick in. It was the most honest thing I'd said in months, and it hung between us, fragile as the moth fluttering against the lantern. She smiled, slow and sad. "Theo's got that gift, charging ahead, no regrets. Me? I'm stuck sketching what-ifs." Her fingers traced the condensation on her glass, and I wondered if she meant us, this moment, the way her knee brushed mine under the table and neither of us pulled away. That brush ignited something. The next morning, while Theo snored off a late night, Joe knocked on my door, soft, tentative. "Wanna escape? There's a market in the village. Theo hates crowds." I agreed, heart skipping, and we wandered the narrow streets of Frigiliana, whitewashed walls blooming with bougainvillea, the air thick with the scent of fresh churros and leather. She haggled over a silver bracelet for me, simple links, etched with olive leaves, and slipped it onto my wrist, her touch lingering. "Fits like it was meant to," she said, voice low. By the time we returned, arms laden with figs and manchego, the ease between us had shifted. Theo noticed, of course, teasing us over lunch about our girls' day out, but Joe just laughed it off, her foot nudging mine under the table again, deliberate this time. That night, as thunder rumbled in from the Atlantic, we sat on the roof, rain pattering on the tiles. She told me about her ex, a painter who'd left her for Paris, taking their shared dreams and half her heart. "I thought love was supposed to be safe," she confessed, rain streaking her face like tears. "But it's just exposure." I reached for her hand, the bracelet cool against her skin. "Maybe it's both. Safe and terrifying." Our fingers laced, and in the storm's flash, I saw it, the possibility of us, electric and inevitable. But inevitability has a way of crumbling under secrets. A week in, Theo pulled me aside after a swim, his board shorts dripping onto the patio stones. "Hey, sis, Joe's been weird since she got here. Distracted. You notice anything?" His brow furrowed, the protective big brother mask slipping. I shrugged, guilt twisting like a knife. "Just the usual." "Why?" He sighed, rubbing his neck. "She's got this thing, old wounds. Last year, she got burned bad. Some girl in Brooklyn who ghosted her after promising the world. I don't want her hurting here, you know. This place is our reset button." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. Reset button. As if feelings could be toggled off like a faulty lamp. That evening, Joe and I stole away to the cove, the water ink black under the moon. We waded in up to our waists, waves lapping at our skin, her laughter echoing off the rocks as she splashed me. Then, silence fell, and she pulled me close, our bodies aligning in the current. Her lips brushed my temple, tentative, then my mouth, soft, questioning. I kissed her back, the world dissolving into salt and heat, her hands steady on my waist as if she'd been anchoring me all along. We didn't speak of it after, not that night. Just dried off under the stars, towels wrapped like secrets, and walked back hand in hand until the villa lights flickered into view. But the next morning brought the crack, the first fracture in our fragile new world. Theo burst into the kitchen, phone in hand, face pale. Joe's ex, Lena, she's in Malaga. Showed up at the airport, begging for a second chance. Joe's been dodging her calls all week. My stomach dropped. Joe stood by the sink, coffee mug trembling in her grip, her eyes distant as the horizon. "I have to see her," Joe said finally, voice flat. "End it clean. For good." Theo clapped her shoulder. We'll go with you. Road trip, yeah. Make it quick. But as they piled into the rental car, dust kicking up the drive, I stayed behind, the villa suddenly too empty, the silence screaming what I couldn't say, don't go. You're breaking us before we begin. The days without Joe stretched like the endless Andalusian afternoons, heavy with unspoken ache. I wandered the villa's overgrown garden, pruning roses that pricked my fingers, their thorns a petty echo of the hurt blooming in my chest. Theo had texted once, Malaga's a circus. Joe's holding up. Back tomorrow. But the words blurred, meaningless against the memory of her kiss, the way her breath had hitched against my skin like a promise. What if Lena's arms felt like home again? What if I was just a detour, a sun-soaked fling in a foreign land? By evening, the restlessness clawed at me. I drove the winding roads to Nerja, the cliffs plunging into the sea like broken promises, and found solace in a tiny tapas bar off the main square. The place was a relic, dark wood beams, walls plastered with faded bullfight posters, the hum of locals trading stories over glasses of Fino. I nursed a sherry, sketching idly on a coaster, two figures on a beach, one reaching, the other turning away. It looked nothing like my work. Theo was the athlete, Joe the artist, but the lines poured out, raw and unfiltered. That's when my phone buzzed. Not Theo, but Joe. Can't stop thinking about you. Lena's a ghost. This is real. My heart soared, fingers flying across the screen. Come back. We need to talk. Her reply, tomorrow. Promise. Relief flooded me, warm as the sherry's glow. I ordered another round, chatting with the bartender, an old expat named Hank from Chicago, who'd washed up here in the 70s and never left. Love in Spain, he chuckled, wiping a glass. It's like the flamenco, passionate, fleeting, leaves you bruised but alive. His words stuck, a warning wrapped in wisdom, as I paid and stepped into the night, the streets alive with laughter and the distant strum of guitar. Back at the villa, sleep evaded me. I paced the terrace, the Mediterranean a black mirror under the moon, reflecting fragments of what-ifs. Joe and I had only just begun, stolen touches, whispered confessions under rain-lashed roofs. Was it enough to withstand the pull of old flames? Dawn crept in, painting the hills gold, and with it came the rumble of tires on gravel. They were back. Theo tumbled out first, surfboard under arm, grinning like he'd conquered the waves. Sis. You missed the drama. Lena showed up with flowers and a sob story. Joe shut her down cold. Epic. He ruffled my hair, oblivious, and headed inside for coffee. Joe lingered by the car, sunglasses perched on her head, exhaustion etching lines around her eyes. She looked smaller somehow, the denim jacket hanging loose on her frame. Alina, she said, voice rough from the drive, can we walk? We took the path to the olive grove, the trees gnarled sentinels whispering in the breeze. Silence stretched until she stopped, turning to me with that piercing gaze. Lena. She wanted forgiveness. Said she'd changed. Joe's hands clenched at her sides. But all I could think was you, how your laugh cuts through my noise, how you see me without the sketches. I stepped closer, the air between us charged. And I see you, Joe. All of you. Our kiss was fiercer this time, born of separation's fire, hands cupping faces, bodies pressing as if to merge, the grove our witness. When we broke apart, breathless, she rested her forehead against mine. This scares me. Theo. He's family. And you. We'll figure it, I whispered, tracing her jaw. One step. The next week was a stolen idol. Theo, sensing our shift but too wrapped in his own chaos to pry, buried himself in emails and beach runs, leaving us the run of the villa. We cooked together, paella turning into laughter when rice stuck to the pan, her teaching me to roll perfect empanadas with calloused artist fingers. Afternoons blurred into lazy explorations, hidden caves along the coast where we picnicked on Manchego and Membrillo, her head in my lap as I read aloud from an old Hemingway I'd found in Dad's study. The sun also rises felt prophetic, lost souls chasing light in a world that didn't care. One evening, as the sun dipped into the sea like a blood orange, we climbed to the ruins of an old watchtower overlooking the bay. The stones were warm under us, crumbling remnants of Moorish guards long gone. Jo pulled out her sketchpad, capturing the vista, the jagged sierras folding into blue, fishing boats bobbing like toys. But midway, her pencil stilled. "Draw me," I teased, striking a pose with mock drama. She laughed, but her eyes softened. "You're impossible to capture. Too alive." Her hand found mine, thumb stroking the bracelet's links. We made love there, not urgent, but slow, reverent, kisses tracing collarbones, whispers mingling with the wind. It was exposure, yes, but the safe kind, where vulnerability forged something unbreakable. Yet cracks spiderwebbed beneath the surface. Theo started noticing, the way Joe's gaze lingered on me during meals, the shared glances over his head like private codes. One night, after a raucous dinner of grilled sardines and too much Ribeiro, he cornered her in the kitchen while I cleared plates. I caught fragments through the swinging door. "Dub my sister, Joe. Come on, that's crossing lines." Her voice, sharp, "It's not your call, Theo. Back off." He stormed out to the terrace, beer in hand, and when I joined him, his face was thunder. "What's going on, Alina? Joe's acting like you're more than friends." The words hung, accusatory, laced with betrayal, not just of him, but of the easy trio we'd always been. I hesitated, the truth a stone in my throat. "Theo, it's new. Real. Don't make it a thing." His laugh was bitter, echoing off the tiles. "A thing? You're my little sister. She's the one person I trusted with everything, my secrets, my fuck-ups. And now..." He paced, fists clenched. "Lena wrecked her. You think you won't?" The accusation stung, deeper than thorns. "I'm not Lena. And Joe's not a kid you need to protect." He stopped, eyes searching mine, heard raw. "Maybe not. But if this blows up, it takes us all down." He walked away then, leaving me with the stars and the weight of his words. Joe found me later, curled on the roof with a blanket against the chill. She slid beside me, arm around my shoulders. "He knows." "Yeah." I leaned into her, her scent, ink and sea salt, steadying. "He'll come around." She was quiet too long. What if he doesn't? What if I'm the villain here, stealing his sister, complicating the only family that's ever stuck? "You're not stealing," I said fiercely. "We're building." But doubt seeded, and it grew. The betrayal came not from Lena's ghost, but from within, from Theo's simmering resentment, which festered into something uglier. 2 days later, during a hike to the aqueduct ruins, he exploded. We'd paused at a viewpoint, the Roman arches spanning a dry riverbed like forgotten bones. Joe and I walked ahead, hands brushing, when Theo's voice sliced the air. "Jesus, Joe, right in front of me. Have some respect." She whirled, sketchpad clutched like a shield. "Respect? For what? Your discomfort. This isn't about you. It is when it wrecks everything." He jabbed a finger at me. "Alina's family. Your family. This? It's a grenade." The words detonated. Joe's face crumpled, then hardened. "Then maybe I should go. Before I pull the pin." She stormed down the trail, dust kicking in her wake, leaving Theo and me in stunned silence. I rounded on him, fury boiling. "You just pushed her away. Happy now?" He deflated, shoulders slumping. "I didn't mean..." "Shit, Alina. I just want us whole." But wholeness cracked irreparably that afternoon. Jo packed a bag in her room, tickets pulled up on her phone for a flight back to Brooklyn. I burst in, door slamming. Don't. Please. Tears streaked her cheeks, smudging the kohl she'd hastily applied. Theo's right. I'm poison, always have been. Lena saw it, now him. You deserve better. No. I grabbed her hands, bracelet glinting like a lifeline. He'll see. We fight for this. But as the sun set, painting the room crimson, she pulled away. I need space. To think. Her cab arrived at dusk, taillights fading into the twilight, taking half my heart with it. Theo found me on the terrace, glass of wine untouched. I'm sorry, he mumbled, sitting heavy beside me. I panicked. Lost my head. I nodded, numb. You might have lost her for good. The villa felt haunted after, echoes of her laughter in the halls, the ghost of her touch in the sheets. Theo tried to bridge the gap, calling her daily, but her responses grew curt, then silent. A week passed in limbo, me sketching furiously to fill the void, pages filled with her silhouette against the sea. Then, the call came, not from Jo, but from Theo's phone, her voice on speaker, strained. I can't do this. Not with the strings attached. Tell Alina. I'm sorry. Click. The line went dead, betrayal's echo ringing louder than any storm. The silence after Jo's call was a void that swallowed days, turning the villa into a mausoleum of what-ifs. Theo and I circled each other like wary cats, apologies traded over coffee, but the damage lingered, a bruise that deepened with each unspoken blame. He threw himself into surfing, emerging salt-crusted and distant, I buried in the garden, coaxing life from wilted herbs as if tending them could mend us. Malaga's markets lost their charm, the coves their magic, even the sea seemed grayer, waves lapping with indifferent cruelty. One morning, 2 weeks after her departure, a package arrived, brown paper, postmarked Brooklyn, addressed to me in Jo's looping script. Theo hovered as I tore it open, her sketchpad, pages brimming with our summer, the villa's arches, my profile laughing over paella, us entwined in the watchtower's shadow. Tucked inside, a letter, Alina, I ran because I feared the fall. But you're the ground I've always needed. If you'll have me, I'm coming back. No strings. Just us. Jo. My breath caught, tears blurring the ink. Theo read over my shoulder, his face crumpling. God, what have I done? He sank into a chair, head in hands. For the first time, I saw not the protector, but the brother, flawed, scared of losing the fragile family we'd patched together from divorce and distance. We talked then, really talked, under the pergola where fairy lights still twinkled like hesitant stars. I thought I was shielding you, he admitted, voice thick. From hurt. From her patterns. But I was shielding myself, from change. I forgave him, not easily, but with the quiet grace of blood ties. She's worth the risk, Theo. And so am I. He nodded, squeezing my hand. Then fight for it. Both of you. I booked her flight that night, heart pounding as I hit confirm. The wait was agony, pacing the drive, scanning the road for dust clouds. When the cab crested the hill at sunset, Jo stepped out like a vision, same denim jacket, hair windswept, eyes shadowed but alight. Theo hung back, giving us space, as I ran to her, our embrace fierce, bodies colliding in relief. I'm sorry, she murmured into my neck, for running. For letting fear win. I pulled back, cupping her face. We both did. But we're here now. Theo approached then, tentative, hands shoved in pockets. Jo. I was an ass. Out of line. You too, you're good. Better than good. His voice cracked, and she stepped forward, pulling him into a hug, the kind that mends fences with its awkward sincerity. "Forgiven," she said simply. "But next time, big bro, mind your own waves." Laughter broke the tension, tentative at first, then full-throated, echoing into the olive groves. We dined that night as a trio renewed, fresh gazpacho, Theo's terrible dad jokes lightening the air. Joe's hand found mine under the table, a quiet anchor, and for the first time, it felt whole, not despite the fractures, but because of them. The remaining days wove us tighter. Joe and I explored deeper, the white village of Rhonda, its gorge a yawning testament to time's endurance, midnight swims where phosphorescence lit our path like stars fallen to earth. We talked of futures, her gallery dreams in Brooklyn, my vague itch to write beyond coffee shop scribbles. "Come with me," she urged one dawn, tangled in sheets as light filtered through shutters. New York's chaos, but ours. I hesitated, glancing at the sea. "And Theo?" "The old place." She smiled, tracing my bracelet. "We carry them. But we build our own home." Theo, sensing the tide turning, pulled me aside on our last hike. The aqueduct loomed, arches steadfast against the sky. "Go, sis. Chase it. I'll visit, hell, I'll crash on your couch and complain about the subway." His grin was genuine, laced with pride. "Just be happy. For once." The airport farewell was bittersweet, hugs fierce, promises exchanged like talismans. As Joe and I boarded, hands clasped, the Spanish coast receded below, cliffs and coves, villa perched like a memory. New York awaited, its grind and glitter, but with her beside me, it felt like possibility, not peril. Months later, in our cramped Bushwick apartment, walls papered with her sketches, my half-finished novel on the sill, we hosted Theo for Thanksgiving. Turkey charred at the edges, pie store-bought, but the laughter genuine, stories flowing like the Rio we'd left behind. Joe raised a glass, eyes on mine, to bonds that bend but don't break. Theo clinked, winking. To family, the kind we choose. And in that moment, amid the steam and clatter, I knew the truth. Love wasn't absence of betrayal or conflict, but the courage to rebuild from their ashes. We'd been exposed, raw and real, and emerged not unscathed, but stronger. 2 women, 1 brother, a tapestry woven from American grit and Spanish soul. The hook that started it all. Just the beginning. The real story was the mending, the quiet triumph of hearts that dared to stay. In the years that followed, Joe's art bloomed, galleries in Chelsea showcasing Andalusian light filtered through Brooklyn haze. My book, a memoir of that summer, found a small press, its pages a love letter to vulnerability. Theo visited often, his startup flopping but spirit unbroken, crashing on our futon with tales of new ventures. We returned to the villa yearly, not as escape, but reclamation, pruning the garden together, Joe sketching while Theo surfed, me writing under the pergola. One spring, as cherry blossoms dusted the East River paths, Joe knelt in our tiny park, a ring glinting, silver, olive-etched, like the bracelet that started it. "Alina Hayes," she said, voice steady as the sea, "be my ground. Forever." Tears came, joyful. Yes. 1,000 times. Our wedding was small, backyard in Bushwick, Theo officiating with vows he wrote himself, half joke, half heart. Friends from both coasts mingled, the air thick with empanadas and Joan Baez on vinyl. As we danced under string lights, her head on my shoulder, I whispered, that door creaking open. "Best accident ever." She laughed, soft. Fate's got a sense of humor. And in the humanism of it all, the mess of family, the grace of forgiveness, the romance that outlasts drama, we found our son. Not always bright, but ours. La Casa del Sol, indeed.